What if someone told you that one of the world's most famous hypercars, a car many people are too scared to even service themselves, was once sitting broken and unwanted, with many believing it would never return to the road? Now imagine that same car rolling through the glamorous streets of Monaco, surrounded by flashing cameras, cheering crowds, and hundreds of people pulling out their phones just to capture a glimpse of it. It sounds like something from a movie, but that is exactly why this story has caught the attention of car lovers around the world. This is not simply the story of a luxury Bugatti Veyron. It is a story of determination, patience, problem-solving, and refusing to give up when almost everyone expects you to fail. For years, the Bugatti Veyron has been seen as one of the most complicated and expensive cars ever built. Even simple repairs can cost thousands of pounds, and many owners depend completely on the manufacturer for maintenance. Because of that, most people believe rebuilding a damaged Veyron outside an official dealership was almost impossible. But one content creator decided to challenge that belief. Instead of walking away from a car that looked like a financial disaster, he saw an opportunity to prove that careful thinking, hard work, and technical knowledge could overcome problems that money alone could not solve. What followed became one of the most talked about automotive projects on YouTube, attracting millions of viewers who wanted to see whether this impossible dream would succeed or end in failure. Every new problem created fresh suspense, every repair brought new hope, and every successful test drive made the journey even more exciting. After months of hard work, unexpected setbacks, and countless hours inside the workshop, the rebuilt Bugatti was finally ready for something much bigger than another garage test. It was time to leave the workshop behind and take the car on a real adventure across Europe. The journey would pass through breathtaking mountain roads, famous cities, and some of the world's most luxurious destinations before reaching Monaco, a place where seeing rare supercars is part of everyday life. Yet something surprising happened when the rebuilt Veyron arrived. Even in a city filled with Ferraris, Lamborghinis, McLarens, Rolls-Royces, and other Bugattis, this particular car managed to stand out. It was not simply because of its price or performance. People recognized the story behind it. They knew this was the same Bugatti that had once seemed beyond saving. They knew how much work had gone into bringing it back to life. That emotional connection turned an already legendary car into something even more special. Instead of being just another expensive machine, it became a symbol of persistence and creativity. Crowds gathered, cameras pointed toward the silver hypercar, and social media quickly filled with photos and videos from the trip. For many people, this moment represented much more than a beautiful car driving through Monaco. It represented a reward for never giving up, even when the challenge looked impossible. In this article, we will explore the remarkable journey behind this unforgettable European road trip, the incredible work that transformed a broken Bugatti into a fully functioning hypercar, the reactions it received everywhere it went, and why this project has inspired not only car enthusiasts, but also millions of people who believe that determination, skill, and the courage to take on difficult challenges can lead to extraordinary results. Before the bright lights of Monaco, before the crowds gathered with their phones, and before people stopped just to watch the silver Bugatti roll past, there was a very different picture. The Veyron was not sitting in a luxury showroom waiting for a wealthy buyer. It was a damaged and neglected car with serious mechanical problems that made many people question whether it would ever drive again. For most buyers, a broken Bugatti is something to avoid at all costs. Repair bills can reach tens of thousands of pounds. Replacement parts are expensive, and even experienced mechanics often hesitate to work on such a complex machine. That is why many people could not understand why Matt Armstrong decided to take on this challenge. Instead of choosing an easy project, he picked one that many believed was impossible. The risk was enormous. If the repairs failed, he could lose a huge amount of money, countless hours of work, and the confidence of the millions of viewers following the project. But Matt has built his reputation by taking on cars that others have given up on. He enjoys solving difficult problems and showing that careful diagnosis is often more valuable than simply replacing expensive parts. That mindset became the foundation of this entire journey. Every challenge the Bugatti presented became another puzzle waiting to be solved. Some problems looked frightening at first, but Matt approached them one step at a time. Instead of guessing, he carefully inspected every system, studied the wiring, checked the electronics, and searched for the real cause behind each fault. One of the biggest surprises came when the gearbox refused to work properly. Many people immediately assumed the gearbox itself had failed, and replacing it would have been an incredibly expensive job. But after taking the time to investigate, Matt discovered that the problem was much simpler than anyone expected. The fault traced back to an electrical issue involving a damaged fuse that had previously been replaced incorrectly. By fixing the real cause instead of treating the symptom, the gearbox returned to life without the need for a massive repair bill. That moment became one of the most memorable parts of the entire project because it showed an important lesson. Expensive problems do not always need expensive solutions. Sometimes patience, knowledge, and careful testing can save both time and money. As the project continued, viewers watched the Bugatti slowly come back to life. Routine maintenance followed, with worn service items replaced and every important system checked to make sure the car could perform safely and reliably. The process was not quick, and it certainly was not easy, but each successful repair increased confidence that the impossible might actually become possible. Millions of viewers began following every update, not just because they wanted to see a Bugatti repaired, but because they enjoyed watching someone refuse to give up when faced with challenge after challenge. Every completed task built excitement for the next one, turning a simple restoration into an ongoing adventure that people looked forward to week after week. By the time the Veyron was running smoothly again, it had become much more than an expensive hypercar. It represented months of determination, countless hours of learning, and a belief that difficult problems can often be solved through patience and skill. That transformation laid the foundation for everything that happened next, because without those early victories inside the workshop, the unforgettable journey through Switzerland, France, and Monaco would never have been possible. Getting the engine running again was only the beginning. A car as advanced as the Bugatti Veyron cannot simply be started and driven across Europe after fixing one major problem. Every system has to work together perfectly. The engine, gearbox, cooling system, electronics, suspension, brakes, and countless sensors all play an important role in making sure the car performs the way it was designed to. Matt Armstrong understood that if he wanted this Veyron to become a reliable road car instead of just a successful workshop project, he needed to inspect every important component with the same level of care. That meant carrying out a complete service, rather than only fixing the obvious faults. It was a long process, but it was also one of the most satisfying parts of the build, because viewers could finally see the Bugatti slowly changing from a broken project into a machine that looked ready for the open road. New spark plugs were installed to help the engine run smoothly, worn ignition parts were replaced, fresh engine oil and gearbox oil were added, filters were changed, and every important fluid was checked. These jobs might sound simple compared to rebuilding major mechanical parts, but on a Bugatti Veyron, even routine maintenance requires careful planning because of the car's unique design. Many owners choose official dealerships for this work because they believe no one else has the knowledge to handle such an expensive vehicle. Matt wanted to prove that with proper research, the right tools, and enough patience, independent mechanics could successfully carry out much of the work without taking unnecessary risks. One of the biggest talking points during this stage was the cost. Official servicing for a Bugatti Veyron has become famous for its eye-watering prices, with some maintenance visits costing more than many brand-new family cars. Instead of accepting those costs without question, Matt carefully researched which components were shared with other vehicles from the wider Volkswagen group. By identifying matching parts that met the same technical standards, he was able to reduce expenses while still maintaining quality. This was not about cutting corners or using poor quality replacements. It was about understanding how modern car manufacturing works, where different brands often share certain components, even though they are sold at very different prices. That discovery fascinated many viewers because it challenged the common belief that every Bugatti part was completely unique and available only through the manufacturer. As the mechanical work continued, the Veyron also began to look the part. The car received a fresh satin silver wrap that gave it a clean and modern appearance while still respecting the original design. Custom wheels were fitted to give the car a distinctive personality without changing its character. Small cosmetic repairs, including work on the front splitter and other damaged areas, helped restore the Veyron's presence. Every completed task made the project feel closer to the finish line. Yet Matt knew appearances alone meant nothing if the car could not perform properly on the road. That is why each repair was followed by careful testing, with every successful drive increasing confidence that the Bugatti was becoming more dependable. Viewers could sense the excitement building with every episode because they knew the final goal was no longer just to repair the car. The dream had grown much bigger. The real test would come when the Veyron left the workshop behind and completed a long-distance journey through Europe without major problems. If it could achieve that, it would prove that all the months of hard work, problem-solving, and determination had been worthwhile. But just when everything seemed to be falling into place, another unexpected challenge appeared, reminding everyone that owning and restoring one of the world's most complicated hypercars is never as straightforward as it seems. Just when it looked like the hardest part of the journey was finally over, the Bugatti Veyron reminded everyone why it has a reputation for being one of the most complex cars ever built. The plan was simple. The repairs were complete. The service had been finished. The car looked better than ever, and the long-awaited European road trip was almost ready to begin. Excitement was growing among viewers because this would be the first real chance to see whether months of hard work had truly paid off. But as often happens with projects of this size, success was followed by another unexpected obstacle. During the final stages of preparation, a fault appeared in the fuel pump control system. It was the kind of problem that could easily stop an ordinary road trip. But on a Bugatti Veyron, it became an even bigger challenge because the car relies on highly advanced electronic systems that must work perfectly together. Suddenly, the dream of driving across Europe was placed on hold once again. For many people watching the project, this moment felt painfully familiar. Every time the finish line seemed close, another issue appeared out of nowhere. It would have been easy to become frustrated or rush into replacing expensive parts without fully understanding the problem. Instead, Matt approached the situation exactly as he had done throughout the entire rebuild. He remained calm, gathered information, and focused on finding the real cause rather than making guesses. Careful diagnosis once again became the key. After testing the system and checking the available information, it became clear that the fuel pump control module had failed. Unlike the earlier gearbox issue, this was not a simple repair that could be solved with a low-cost replacement. The module was a specialized component that required sourcing through official channels, making the process slower, more expensive, and more complicated than anyone would have liked. There were also manufacturer requirements that meant certain installation procedures had to be followed correctly before the car could safely return to the road. Although the delay was disappointing, it highlighted an important reality about restoring rare hypercars. Even the most skilled mechanic cannot avoid every setback, and sometimes patience is the only solution. Instead of hiding the problem or pretending everything was perfect, Matt shared the challenge openly with his audience. That honesty became one of the reasons so many people continued to support the project. Viewers were not just watching a series of successful repairs. They were watching the real ups and downs of rebuilding an extraordinary machine. Every delay made the eventual success feel even more rewarding because people understood exactly how much effort had gone into reaching that point. Weeks of preparation had already taught one valuable lesson after another, and this latest problem simply added another chapter to the story. Eventually, the replacement module arrived, the necessary work was completed, and the Bugatti was tested once again. This time, everything worked as it should. The engine ran smoothly, the electronics responded correctly, and confidence slowly returned. After months of uncertainty, the European adventure was finally becoming a reality. The maps were ready, the routes had been planned, and the Veyron stood waiting outside the workshop, no longer as a broken project, but as a fully functioning hypercar prepared to cover hundreds of miles across some of Europe's most beautiful roads. For Matt, this was much more than a road trip. It was the ultimate test of every repair, every late night in garage, and every difficult decision made during the rebuild. If the Bugatti could complete this journey successfully, it would prove that determination, careful engineering, and a refusal to give up could transform what many considered an impossible project into one of the most inspiring automotive success stories on YouTube. The next stage would take the Veyron out of the workshop and into the real world, where thousands of people would finally see the famous rebuilt Bugatti with their own eyes. VidIQ, the moment finally arrived. After months of repairs, unexpected setbacks, and countless hours spent inside the workshop, the rebuilt Bugatti Veyron rolled out onto public roads, ready for the adventure that so many people had been waiting to see. This was no longer about proving the car could idle smoothly or complete a short test drive around the neighborhood. The real challenge was whether it could travel hundreds of miles across different countries without suffering another major breakdown. It was the kind of journey that would test every repair, every replacement part, and every decision made during the rebuild. If something had been overlooked, the road trip would expose it. But if everything worked as planned, it would become the greatest proof that the project had truly succeeded. With that goal in mind, Matt Armstrong and his team set off, leaving the workshop behind and heading towards some of Europe's most beautiful roads. The first major destination was Switzerland, a country famous for its breathtaking mountain scenery, winding highways, crystal clear lakes, and roads that seem almost made for driving remarkable cars. As the satin silver Bugatti Veyron crossed into Switzerland, it immediately began attracting attention. Even in a country where luxury cars are not uncommon, people quickly realized that this was not just another Bugatti passing by. Drivers slowed down to take a closer look. Pedestrians stopped what they were doing, and smartphones appeared almost instantly as people tried to capture photos and videos of the famous hypercar. Social media soon filled with clips recorded by excited fans who could hardly believe they were seeing the rebuilt Veyron driving freely through the Swiss countryside. Many viewers recognized it immediately, not because of its color or custom wheels, but because they had followed its entire story online. They remembered the early episodes when the car refused to move, the mechanical problems that seemed impossible to solve, and the long nights spent searching for answers. Seeing it now, running smoothly on real roads, felt almost unbelievable. The reaction showed that people were not simply admiring